Bambiz Marketing presents Elder Law Growth, a podcast that helps elder law and estate planning attorneys attract clients without wasting time or money. We're your Bambiz team takeover. Jim has this episode off. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Growth Podcast. I am your host today, Nicole, and today we're going to be talking about an incredibly relevant topic as we approach this upcoming presidential election. We're going to talk about how this political season can impact your social media and your advertising strategy as an elder law or estate planning attorney just trying to advertise your practice during this time. So in this episode, I'm going to be joined by Liz, and she's one of the Bambiz team members and knows all things regarding Facebook ads, and she is just really versed on Facebook ads and how it'll affect your business. So Liz is going to join me here in just a few minutes, and we're going to explore why it's important to stay neutral on social media during this season, how political engagement can impact your ads, and then we're going to share some practical tips that you can take back to your practice to help you navigate these turbulent times. So let's get started. We have Liz joining us, and she's a vital team member here at Bambiz. Facebook ads guru, Facebook ad, she knows a little bit all about advertising in general. So Liz, you want to give a little background into what you do for Bambiz?
Yeah, of course. Nicole, thank you for having me. And as Nicole mentioned, I am the Facebook ads guru at Bambiz. I love everything Facebook ads and really having the time to take in to dig and let's be real. I'm a little bit competitive, so I'm always trying to beat Zuck out. I love, the joy that it brings our attorneys when they can fill their seminars and totally crush it and send to us back reviews or pictures of oh my gosh, I did so good last night. So I really love that and that feedback. So yeah, so I do all Facebook ads, automations, the whole process.
Yeah, I felt like Liz was the perfect person to bring in today just to kind of, you kind of know a little bit all about just how Facebook runs in terms of advertising for our clients specifically, and just talk about with this election season coming up, what specifically these attorneys need to be looking out for, especially if they're doing these things on their own or their in-house marketing is doing it. What's the big no-nos, and what's some tips that we can give them to kind of keep them focused during this season so they don't get bombarded by social media in general?
Yeah. So I think the number one tip, there's many tips, but the number one tip for your business as a whole that I would say is just be Switzerland. Don't take sides. Don't engage in anything because there is going to be a lot of hostility in this season. And the moment that you take a side is the moment that you make the other side mad and that you could potentially lose clients. So number one thing, just be Switzerland. Take care of all of your clients and really focus on that versus this political climate that we have right now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's really important for them to be focused on their experts, making sure that their content stays neutral. That way that they're not messing with their reputation in a way. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, there's people take sides and things can get really heated, and it's important to stay in that neutral zone and just continue to push elder law and estate planning. I feel like they need to be that trusted person during this time where they're so back and forth of what people believe in. So they need to be that neutral ground where people can come and make sure that they're getting the content that they need. And I think just from a social media manager side of it, I think it's really important during this time that attorneys and their staff and things like that should be really closely monitoring what is happening on their social pages. Specifically, their team should be watching what comments are coming out, what's going on their ads specifically, what their team is even putting out, because if they're connected with their specific business page, that could be some, troubled waters there. Just being really careful overall during the season of what's being put out and making sure it's being monitored with whatever information that they're giving out, and that it's connected with their firm's mission, not just a personal opinion, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I will say that it is important for anyone who works at your firm, anything on your personal pages, to be Switzerland as well. Because the thing is that a lot of times, especially if you're in a smaller city, but even if you're in, your little local suburb of a bigger city,
right?
Everyone kind of knows everyone. And so if you're posting stuff on social media, that can get back to people. And it's just best to be Switzerland and not to do that. And then one other thing that I wanted to note on the comment side of things is the great thing is that if you do run ads with us, We do check your comments. We do field them. And we hide what needs to be hidden. We block who needs to be blocked. And so that they will not keep going after your ads or your posts or anything like that.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, when it comes to ads, there's a lot of more like technical things on the backside that during this political season, unfortunately, it's just going to happen. So like increased costs because there's a lot more people running ads. Just to think of everyone who's going to be running in November, every single one of them is going to be running an ad. Not only are you going to be getting federal ads, but you're going to be getting state and local ads as well. So there's just going to be a much more dense population of ads in the next coming months that really could increase cost. Really just depends on your area. Some might not be impacted as much as the other. Probably rural areas won't be impacted as much as metropolitan areas. But that is one thing to keep an eye on. And that also ad approval delays and stricter review processes because there are a lot of political ads running. And you actually, if you're not familiar with the platform, you actually have to get approval to run political ads. So at Bambiz, we do have the highest approval, but no political ads here, guys. But there is a stricter review process just because of having to make sure that people are not breaking the rules. And there's also very increased scrutiny on the ads. So funny story, last week we were on our team retreat and we had an ad get rejected. And this ad had been running. And it was rejected because, and now let me remind you, this is like Midwest.
So not an area that you would think it would have been rejected.
Right, exactly. And it came back telling us that we were running an ad in Taiwan for financial reasons. And it was an elder law ad for the Midwest. So that's where like things, because it is the algorithm, like picking things out and just like kind of tagging it, we then have to go in and ask for a review and give a reason why.
Why do you think it does that? Because, you know, there's probably some of these attorneys are going to run into that and their in-house marketing is going to freak about what are we doing, what's happening. So they might not have the same status that we have. So, you know, they're going to have to take the longer way around to figure that out. What does that look like for them?
So the reason why this is happening is because the algorithm is, and now I'm not talking about the algorithm that like runs the ads. I'm talking about the algorithm that makes sure that the ads are compliant is going to be extra sensitive right now just because of all the political ads running. So with that extra sensitivity, it's going to pull something, and even with the algorithm when we're not in this political climate can like kind of tag it wrong all the time. The nice thing is that we do have status with Meta because we are an agency and we do run so much with them that we actually have our own person at Meta that I can reach out to, which is absolutely fabulous. It's like
amazing.
Mo is my boy. Mo is my boy. So we can reach out to them. I can, if I have an issue with an ad or an ad account or anything like that.
So Facebook is like enforcing like these really strict like content guidelines and things like that where they're not getting approved, and it might not be like a location thing. It might just be like a content thing. How can our attorneys or attorneys out there, how can they still craft ad content that can resonate with the audience but not get flagged or like get restricted?
Yeah, so there is a whole, if you Google Meta ad policies, there's a whole stack of policies that you have to follow. For instance, one of them that is really, really funny is you cannot use you in the terms of you need to buy this. You cannot use you in that
Interesting. Way. Okay. That's different on a social media side. On like a social media, like general content side, I want to post you because like we want to resonate with them. But then on the ad side of thing, it's the opposite. You don't want that. You don't want to say you.
Right. So you can't have you like you're telling them to do something. You have to reword it all. There's a whole set of policies, and the best advice I can give you is know them like the back of your hand.
Right. So like their in-house team really needs to be doing some background work before they start going in and running ads.
Oh yeah, for sure. The worst thing that you can do is not know those policies. And if you keep getting your ads rejected, they will shut down your ad account as a whole and potentially could also ban your page from ever running ads again.
And then we would all cry together. because that's
Yeah.
honestly scary because Facebook is kind of it right now for especially for attorneys like ads
Mm-hmm.
and things of that
Yeah.
nature. But I mean, I think kind of going back to that neutral status, what steps can they take to ensure that the content that they're putting out isn't tone deaf or insensitive during an election season?
I would just say, like, make sure that what you're putting out there is something that is really going to resonate with your audience and is going to be helpful, because the last thing we want to do is put something out there that someone's going to take offense to, right? And like, if you're inviting someone to a seminar, no one's ever going to get offended by that. Just make sure that what you're putting out there and what you're running ads to, or in the social content world, is really actually coming from a serving point,
Right.
and that servant's nature.
And I mean, I guess it's important to put out there too that we're not saying don't have a political view. Let's just point that out there. We're not saying don't have a political view, don't have your side of things. But as far as like their practice goes, stay that neutral zone and every piece of ad copy that they put out, make sure that they're serving their community rather than taking a side in a sense. They can take it personally, but as far as their business goes, it could really hurt them in the span of what they're doing online. What do you feel like is the biggest change in Facebook's policy specifically during election season? Like, how does that differ from just a normal, it's January, you know what I mean? Like, how does that differ when like election season rolls around?
Yeah, I believe the biggest change is the sensitivity and the algorithm. And when I say the algorithm, I meant the algorithm that checks all of the ads, not that approves them or not that pushes them out there. But that, and then also the sensitivity to like certain words, like if you put financial in things or stuff like that. And then if you're not claiming that you're running like a financial ad or social political or housing or whatever, and it somehow picks one word out of your ad copy that could be that can reject your ad, and then you have to go through the whole process of getting approval. So I would say during this political season, that's probably the most sensitive thing, and the biggest impact is because they've just taken everything up a notch.
So Facebook gets real touchy during election season is what we're saying here. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Facebook is touchy in general. Most platforms are on social media with what you're putting out, especially now. There's a lot of guidelines in place, but I feel like it's amped up during like election season. It just goes to a whole nother level. One of the things that I feel like we come across is sometimes we get upset attorneys because their ads aren't being shown as much as a political ad that they've seen 17 times.
Don't take your ads and ever compare them to any of the political ones, because know that they have hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars that they're spending on ads in a very short period of time.
They shouldn't really be comparing their ads in general to really anyone but in their area. Just because someone in California could be completely different than someone in Alabama. And if you're going to compare to somebody in your area. We come across it a lot that ad spend is going to be different where you are. I mean, election season, yes, it is harder, but make sure that you're comparing like realistically.
Yes. And like you said, like we don't run your ads nationally. We run them locally. And so you can't compare your ads to on a federal level at any nature, because you're not running nationwide. So compare your ads on that local level for sure.
So for smaller practices with limited budgets, what strategies would you recommend for them to stay competitive on Facebook despite high ad cost right now, specifically driven by election season?
So it really would depend on your market, to be honest. So if you're a little bit more rural, I would say the course. Now, if you're in like a bigger city and stuff like that, it might be a better idea to run a webinar, which we do and we excel at very well. I actually have some ads in California right now that are a webinar who they've been a client for us with over a year, and they consistently in California get like $15 leads for a webinar. So
wow, okay.
and do really well. That's not normal. Yeah, that's not across the board, but I will say that like in lead cost wise, your lead magnet is typically going to be cheaper. Then it's going to be like the webinar, but those two kind of go hand in hand together. Like one could flip flop with the other. And then obviously having someone show up to a seminar is going to be more of a commitment. So that's going to be a little bit more costly than a webinar. So if you are in an area that is more urban or that you really want to keep your ad costs a lot cheaper, I would go with a webinar. Just the biggest key with that is follow-up is key with those webinars.
Right. Yeah. So just kind of covering our bases here, like they just really need to stay the course, stay neutral. We don't want any negative reviews popping up because they said something they shouldn't have said. Just realize that ads during this time is going to be different. It might be a little bit higher of an ad cost. You need to be a little more sensitive in their wording and their targeting. And just a realistic overview of they're not going to be seen as much as the federal levels because they're not seen by everybody in the world. They're just seen by their local.
And don't compare yourself to these political ads because they're spending a lot more money. They have a lot more money to spend and they have to spend it before November.
Right? So, yeah. So if you got some money you want to spend before November, let us know. We'll make it happen. But,
I would be happy to spend your money on Facebook for you.
Well, let's wrap this up a little bit. Let's give them a little something to take with them, to finish out the year in a happy, positive way.
Be understanding that this is about to be a very interesting couple of months and not to stress. It happens every 4 years and we've been around for a lot longer than 4 years. So we know what to do.
Absolutely. I mean, we made it through a pandemic. I think we can do anything.
Yeah. We've made it through a pandemic. We've made it through an election cycle. We've made it through a lot. So we know what to do, but be understanding and know that a lot of what is going to happen is going to be outside of your hands. Unfortunately, it's going to be the algorithm with Facebook or the bots that are checking the ads or whatnot. And just to have patience to ask for that request for approval and just know that you're not the only person who's going through this. Every single person who's running ads on Facebook will go through this in this season. Just to keep your head up and keep trucking and worry about your business and let us worry about your ads.
Thank you so much, Liz, for being here. I really appreciate it. It's not often that two other Bambiz employees gets to jump on and give a little bit in the Law Growth podcast, but this is really cool to have you here and to talk a little bit more about ads. I'm sure we'll have you again, so this is not the last time you're going to see Liz, but thank you so much for being here and just sharing your opinion, especially during this season. So, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of the Elder Law Growth Podcast. We're really glad that you are here. Liz and I really hope that you can take these tips and apply them into your practice and to help you navigate the complexities of social media and advertising during this election season. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at bambiz.net. We are here to help. We'd love to hear more about you and how we can help you grow during this season. And be sure to follow the podcast, whether you're here on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening. And then if you're on YouTube, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Please stay tuned next month. We have some incredible guests coming, and Jim will be back to take the reins once again to lead you through growing your practice in the best way possible. So until next time, stay neutral, stay informed, and keep providing excellent service to your clients. Thanks for listening.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Elder Law Growth Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things marketing for elder law and estate planning law firms. Here you can find all of the tools and skills you need to market your own practice without wasting your time. If you like this podcast, please leave us a review wherever you're listening. And if you're ready to take the pressure off and let our team handle your marketing, visit bambiz.net and book a free call with us today.